Hi and welcome everyone to the 19th episode of the GenAI CIO Podcast, where we try to give you the latest and the greatest in the world of GenAI, which can be leveraged probably by the CIOs and the CXOs to probably build a better generative AI strategy, right? Rishabh this side, founder and CBO for GoML, which is a niche application services provider in the GenAI space. I've been joined by Shiva, founder and CEO for Liza. Thanks, Shiva, for joining us. All right, while we'll dive deeper into some of the updates, but I think Shiva, you will agree with me that the biggest news was Mosaic coming back with a bang. They started off on a very good note last year, right? When they actually launched their LLM as well, which promised to run on a lot of on very less GPUs, right? But after the acquisition by Databricks, I think they were lagging behind, right? But this week they actually came back with probably, which is actually being claimed as one of the most powerful open source models, DBRX, right? I've been reading reports, Shiva, that across benchmarks, it has definitely been performing much better than a lot of these, the Llama 2, Mistral models and so on and so forth, right? But we internally also tried out, right? And we've tested it against a reasoning, test that you generally put these LLMs through, which is called the diamond test, right? So people who do not know, diamond test is a very, very, adopted test for testing a lot of machine learning models. And what does it do is it primarily tells the model that you place a diamond on a chair, and then you place the chair in the kitchen, then you take the chair to the bedroom, and then you take the chair to the bathroom, right? And then you ask probably where the diamond is. I mean, it's a very simple problem to solve for a human, right? But it's considered to be one of the most complex problems for LLMs. What we noticed was that while, Llama 2 and GPT 3.5 were not able to answer at all, right, out of the 10 attempts that we tried making, Claude Opus, which is now my favorite model, Shiva, and Mixtral were able to answer 10 on 10, right? But DBRX was able to answer only once out of the 10 tries that we actually had, right? So while it is being slated to be one of the, larger models, I think reasoning is one place where it's, lacking, Shiva, right now. What are your thoughts, Shiva?
I think reasoning is also, this test is quite complex anyway. So I will not read too much into it. I rather have a different take on all of this. What is the whole point of making these models powerful? I know you acquired Mosaic for $1.3 billion. But how does it change everything? Databricks might go to their customers and say, look, I'm going to give you a model in-house. I also have GPT equivalent capabilities. But eventually Databricks is going to say, I'll give you an API within my cloud. Everyone is trying to sell an API service eventually. And I'll tell you where I'm coming from. The CIOs are asking this question now. LLMs are already being commoditized. And we know that GPT and Claude, which is now backed by Amazon a lot, and Google Gemini are going to be the state-of-the-art models. And as an enterprise, we always want the best models with which we want to work with. So why would we even use these open source models, irrespective of however great they are? They can never compete with the closed source models in terms of, like you said, the reasoning capability and speed and all of that. So long story short, that is my take on it. It is fantastic. Kudos to the team. But we should also understand the reality. Customers, enterprises are okay. They're okay as long as these LLMs sign a SOC 2 agreement and GDPR agreement and is available within the VPC. They're okay with the data privacy. I don't think 99% of the large enterprises are looking to host and run their own models locally. That's my current take based on what I'm seeing in the market. And that's why, while it's a great news, I'm not probably too thrilled about.
I do have one last point, right, Shiva, before we move on. So while you did rightly mention that probably, we've had very less number of open source implementations, even at GoML, right? We're either using probably Bedrock models or probably GPT, right? But where I'll tell you, I'm seeing a lot of adoption or a lot of requests coming in from open source perspective, where customers are just trying to probably, especially the startup customers, right? Where cost also becomes a big concern for these guys, right? Because running these models is not cheap, right?
Yeah.
Is when they're experimenting, or probably they're just at an experimental phase, right? I'm thinking a lot, like Llama 2, honestly, if you really ask me, we've not done any implementations in production, but a lot of experimental work is happening on Llama 2, right? So yes, I agree. Scalability of, these proprietary models definitely is at an altogether different pace than open source. But open source is a very good, way for these startups and these younger enterprises to probably experiment and start small.
Makes sense. Next up, we have OpenAI-backed robotics company called Figure. They launched Figure 01. It's a robot. There is a popular video demo on YouTube, in YouTube, probably go and visit. So now we have a robot which can also interact thanks to OpenAI and the Whisper models that they have. And it can also do the tasks pretty well. And that's what Figure as a company is trying to achieve. They raised humongous money recently. It's a 5 feet 6 inch, 60 kilogram weight robot that they are launching, Figure 01. Apparently, it is available to purchase next year for $22,000. You can actually buy the robot for $22,000 and have it fold your clothes, because that's what it did in the demo, at least. I mean, it might look silly. I'm not trying to make a joke here, but I think this is the beginning of what is going to happen. The real, all the sci-fi movies that we used to watch, I think it's happening now. What was lacking was the ability to speak, ability to understand the vision process really well. With the Transformers model, I think this breakthrough has allowed robotics company to move to the next stage. So yeah, it's a very interesting place to look at. A lot of money investment is going into this. We see Tesla is building Tesla robotics. Figure 1 is there. We always saw Boston Dynamics around. We also have a lot of Chinese companies building this as well. So yeah, this is probably a next big frontier in this AI space.
Absolutely. And I do feel, and as Jensen Huang says, right, Shiva, is that probably not right away, but in the coming years, it's going to become a commodity. Like everyone owns a phone. Just imagine probably, and I'm just going back to very older examples. I remember the days when we actually go to the airport to buy an airline ticket, right? And this was as like back as 15 years, right? It wasn't like 20 or a decade back, probably a century back, right? But now everyone, owns a phone to probably do each task in their, day-to-day activity. I think the adoption of robos and robotics is going to be much faster than it was for smartphone industry, right? So really excited about it. I'm pretty sure that each one of us will have an assistant. I imagine probably me walking and then probably a smaller robo who may be even smarter than I am probably in coming days, right? So really good update.
No, you made a fantastic point. I forgot. And even NVIDIA is investing like crazy on the robotics platform. They even launched a robotics platform as well. Okay. Yeah, right.
We spoke about it last week, right? They partnered with Disney to probably prepare hardware.
Yeah.
All right. My favorite news of the day again, Shiva, Amazon has increased their investment into Anthropic. Well, obviously they started investing into Anthropic, but they had invested probably lesser dollars. This time they've gone all out. They've invested $2.75 billion, right? Which shows their commitment now to probably in the capabilities that Claude is bringing in, that Anthropic is actually bringing in, right? And hands down, Shiva, we have started leveraging Opus and Haiku in a lot of our implementations. Haiku more so because it's available on Bedrock.
And it's faster.
Opus is much faster, absolutely, right? Opus is definitely, giving a really good accuracy, especially in the NLP side of things, right? The chat use cases that we're actually building. So I think Amazon is very well convinced, while not convinced, probably this is a strategy that they've been following for a long time, that they will give flexibility to their users and partners to choose the model that they want to bring. And that's where probably Bedrock is a platform where you have the maximum number of models available to try out today, right? I think Microsoft is also now catching pace with while probably reducing your dependencies from ChatGPT to probably bring in Mistral as well, right? But I think, Amazon is super convinced that Anthropic is going to be probably a model of choice. What I'm really not disappointed, but I'm really waiting for is to be Opus to be available on Bedrock. Because when you compare both the models, well, Haiku is much more faster. Opus is more powerful, right? So I'm really happy about this news. I hope probably this helps partners like us to probably start implementing cloud faster on Bedrock.
No, this is, I think Amazon is doing the right thing. They're waiting I mean, all of us, even you and I were thinking, right? I mean, all of us had doubts about what Claude could pull off, but with Opus and Haiku, they're like fantastic. Haiku, many of you might not understand this, but I want to kind of highlight. Many of you may not know this. When it comes to multi-agent automation framework, like we are doing at Lizer with Lizer Automata, where we are automating end-to-end roles or workflows using multiple agents joining together, speed is of essence more than accuracy or reasoning power. So Haiku is like fantastic that way. And yes, I think Opus is going to come out pretty soon on Amazon Bedrock. So Amazon backing Anthropic is very much understandable. A lot of people on Twitter were asking questions, hey, why is Amazon doing it and all of that. But it's pretty clear. I mean, now they have a winning model. They can take Microsoft and Google head on with Claude available through Bedrock, and Amazon would want to increase their shareholding in Anthropic anyway eventually.
And eventually, even if they're actually, and Shiva, it's not like they hadn't invested in the Anthropic earlier, right? They had already invested in Anthropic, but that did not stop them, or that did not, like what Microsoft did, right? They invested in OpenAI, and then obviously OpenAI service was available on Azure. So Azure was almost equivalent to ChatGPT. You did not have a lot of playground, right? But Amazon never did that, right? Even if they had initially invested in Anthropic, you had AI-21 models, you had their own Titan models, then they brought in Llama, then they brought in Mistral models, and so on and so forth, right? So I do feel that, yes, they are, or probably they want to build a partnership with Anthropic, but the collaboration with the other, or allowing the playground for other models, is not going to go anywhere, right, from flexibility perspective.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Moving
OpenAI
from Amazon
to OpenAI now. We have Sora, right? Sora is their video generation capability. And we saw them doing this 60-second videos. Apparently, they are moving to 5-minute and they recently launched a 12-minute video that was generated by Sora. They're already speaking to multiple Hollywood directors. Rishabh, probably I'll allow you to cover more of it because I'm not reading into that. The only point I want to highlight here is that while the GPU consumption is crazy to create videos, I think the production houses, while OpenAI claims that we're going to support the production houses, but I believe they're going to support obviously very big production houses, but most of the other production houses are going to go bust. Because imagine at GoML or at Lizer, we don't need to go to a production house anymore. We can just play around with prompts and generate the marketing video that we want to generate. We don't have to go and have cameras and actors and all of them. So yeah, that's the opportunity here with Sora increasing the time. So what do you think, Rishabh?
No, absolutely. And that's what even, OpenAI is actually going all out with, right? So Lane Dale, who's the head of partnerships, and this is something that I was reading, right, Shiva, she's already started meeting a lot of Hollywood producers and directors with an aim that obviously not how end-to-end Hollywood movie, but probably how they can start leveraging Sora into certain extent, like probably certain animations and so on, right? As early as early next year, first half of next year, right? So Sora, as everyone knows, would be part of the GPT-5 suite, which is supposed to come by this year, towards the end of this year, right? So yeah, they've started, like exactly what you just mentioned, that they've started exploring that already, which is quite ambitious. Like the model has still not hit the market, but that's quite ambitious and been planned through with OpenAI.
Yeah, what are you seeing demand from customers yet on the video side? How many of the customers are asking?
So, Shiva, in the mainstream, right? I think we are, and when I say mainstream, we need to look at use cases which are the revenue generation use cases or cost saving use cases for our customer or efficiency improvement use cases. So I think they're still in the space where we are implementing use cases for customers where they're seeing value from from text to image. There are a lot of use cases in that area. I think video is still a little far because till now you've gotten models that have proved probably it's a 5-second video, right? Where also, things are getting improved. But I think once Sora hits and the accuracy comes in, that's when I think probably the change will happen. Today, what I feel is that you don't have the right technology in the market that actually solves. like I'll give you the example, like Shiva, when we started with the imaging also, right, last year with Stable Diffusion, we hit a lot of roadblocks. Like we were not able to give the accuracy that can be used in production. But then came Midjourney, then came Dolly, right? Stable Diffusion 3 is still yet to get there. That's when we started, seeing a lot of these use cases coming into mainstream. So I think video is yet to get there, Shiva.
Got it. Cool. I'll tell you from Liza's standpoint, out of the 50 opportunities that we got in touch with, there is only one requirement that was on the video side. But like you said, until GPT-4 came out, we never had many opportunities anyway. So I think once the model improves, people will start getting more ideas.
Once the tech is there, I'm pretty sure, because for these production models, right, production use cases, it needs to be adaptable and realistic. But I don't think so the video technology is there yet.
Right there. Okay. Cool. Next up, we had so Mistral recently did a hackathon, and the one who won the very first prize during the Mistral hackathon is a set of a team who managed to build a video game by fine-tuning an LLM. And Mistral LLM is not a vision capable one. It's just a text model. So how did they crack it? So each and every frame was converted into an ASCII code, and then the ASCII code was used to fine tune the LLM. So literally they converted everything to a binary, and then they made the whole thing work. And it did work. It actually did work. That's the best part about the whole thing. So that's the whole concept called ArtPrompt technique, where any video or art, because eventually all this could be digitalized with ASCII. So the whole idea is you can digitalize them and train them. It is just again another way to look at how you can use LLMs to train even graphical or graphics or images, etc. Just wanted to bring it to the table. I don't think the application is going to be massive because this is a problem that is already something like OpenAI and Claude have solved. So, but just it's kind of.
But this is already fallen into the wrong hands, or probably if gotten into the wrong hands, Shiva, could probably be really bad for this technology, because while they were doing this art prompting, they actually confused the model as well to probably answer into something which it's not supposed to, right? So what they actually did was they asked the model to probably tell them how to probably build a bomb, right? Which obviously the model is not supposed to tell. If you probably try, it will probably ask you not to do that, right? What they actually did was they built bomb in ASCII characters, right? And it confused the model to the prompting that you're just supposed to understand these ASCII characters, and finally what you get, you're supposed to respond to it. Since they created so many steps in that whole process, the model got confused, and it actually tied everything together eventually, and actually responded to how to probably create a bomb. So I agree. While probably if you look at it application-wise, definitely I also don't see a lot of applicability in real-time use cases. But they've proven it that they can use this to probably fool the model as well.
But I think now I understand. So ArtPrompt is slightly different from what Mistral managed to do. What Mistral managed to do was to actually convert images into its digital equivalents, like every frame into digital equivalent, and then use LLMs to train. ArtPrompt is something different. ArtPrompt is ASCII art, using ASCII art as instructions. Correct. This is different from what Mistral's hackathon guys managed to do. Got it. Okay. My bad.
Yep. I think they fooled 3.5 and even 4 to a certain extent, sure, with this, right? So I think as we move forward, right, one of the things, while obviously we started covering in our use cases because we do a lot of production and a lot of financial services use cases. But I think this will become the hot topic in coming years. How do you probably control these models, right? And how do you ensure they don't generate or they don't do something which they're not supposed to? While we've been using meta prompts, COD, COT, other models probably validating the output and whatnot, right? But they're still able to fool it with these.
That's the wild unknown of this technology. I don't think there is a definitive way to tame it, because if you understand the transformers architecture really, really, really well, you will know that you can only tame it to an extent, but you cannot control it. It's like bringing a wolf to your home and trying to domesticate it. It'll behave like a dog, it'll wag its tail, it'll run around, but you know what? It's a wolf eventually. So,
Exactly.
uh,
A lot of people might not know this, right? When GPT-4 was released, a tag team within Microsoft was created just to probably try to break it. So there was no automation around this. I mean, obviously, how do you build that automation, right? Manually, people were trying to break it, and that's how decided all those meta prompts, right, Shiva? It wasn't like I was really appalled when I was going through the detailed paper how they had managed to do that, right? So day in, day out, this tag team tested it for months,
yeah.
tried to break it out, and based on those responses, they were creating these meta prompts to control it. And till
Yeah.
date, obviously, I don't think so you have 100% fix for this, right?
No, it's not. No, there cannot be 100% fixed. That's what I'm trying to say. Because these are guardrails. You need to continue to build guardrails. But all we need to understand is, see, you can domesticate as much as possible a wolf. Eventually, it's a wolf, and you need to just agree to live with it. That's the best point. Like, as a company, if you're building it for your customers should fully know that there could be these issues that can happen, right? Don't go out and promise that, hey, we have managed it, we have tamed it, etc. That's not what the point is, right? So because that's the nature of the whole architecture. That's what Andrej Karpathy keeps saying again and again. You can only guardrail it to some extent. You can only fine tune it by giving it some safe content to train, or you can train a new model as is. But long story short, it's still a wolf. I mean, you cannot control the non-deterministic nature of LLMs. Let's see what happens. I mean, we all are.
And just one last point on this, Shiva, right, is you cannot have these LLMs or probably the Microsofts or probably the Anthropics of the world to probably let you control. I think that's a shared responsibility model that you need to understand. Like what GoML does today, right? We own that responsibility to probably tame it to the extent that we can before implementing it. I cannot expect Anthropic to do that. And that's what cloud also says, right? AWS says it's a shared service responsibility model, right? So I think there are multiple things to be understood in this area.
What next? Two quick bites. We'll end up this session with 2 quick bites. Go ahead.
Sure. I think one very quick update. One thing, Shiva, that we've also faced an issue with is the multiple fine-tuning and training options, right? And then testing for your models. So what has happened is that, there's a unified framework that has been released called LLAMAFACTOry, right? By an open source set of developers. What it actually does is it allows or close to, multiple training techniques like your probably RLHF, your DOP technique, your controlled prompting and so on and so forth, right? That you use to train your models. It has provided a single platform, right? For you to do that training, test it out, and then obviously see it or visualize it as well, right? So they've given it across components. They've given a model, adapter where you can actually build your models or probably load your models. It supports close to 100 plus models. Then you're going to data adapter where you actually load your data for testing, close to support 50 plus data that's already supported. Finally, probably, a training model where you actually can train your model, but they've given something called as Llama mode as well, where they can visualize the performance and efficiency of these models as well. So while we haven't tried it yet, but it definitely is a good update because then you can build your models and then probably train and test your models in one single platform, right? So
good. That's a good update. And what do we have next? Sakana AI, the Tokyo-based startup, which I think Khosla Ventures and many others invested. So they came up with a novel method of picking the best of all the open source platforms like Llama, Mistral, etc., and merging the best modules of these together in order to build a newer model, which performs better than these base models, basically. It's a very clever way of looking at building an AI model. Again, my head goes back to the same thing, right? I mean, coming in from the cloud world, we had, I think OpenStack, I believe, which is an open cloud which you can run locally on any of the on-prem. And there are a few other platforms as well available. And customers were giving a lot of importance to data privacy and security and et cetera, et cetera. But then when AWS and Azure cracked the VPC angle, wherein you can still have all the data privacy, but within your VPC, all the other market fell off. So I'm kind of coming from that human behavior that, as long as your data is not in the internet, you're happy. I mean, customers were happy because AWS and Azure were able to contain all of that information within the VPC, so-called. So, and the information was running still within the data center of AWS, actually one single data center of AWS. The reason I'm bringing that is that I don't know how long these open source models will continue to thrive. While we all bet on open source, we all want open source open source to grow really, really big. But eventually the consumption comes through APIs. Even the previous one, LLAMAFACTOry raised $25 million because they want to launch a SaaS platform eventually for people to train and then consume it as an API, which Hugging Face already provides you. And Hugging Face, I think, is going to launch this as well as a feature. But yeah, that's my take on the open source side. But let the innovation continue. Why not? We'll all learn something actually.
I'm going to label this podcast as Shiva criticizing open source.
So I'm not criticizing. I am trying to understand the logic behind what all should open source do. I mean, I'm all in for what LangChain has done. Fantastic, right? I'm all in for what Llama Index has done. At Lizer, we launched open source. I'm all in for the vector databases. I'm all in for that because those are components that you will adopt. MongoDBs of the world, etc. Where I'm not able to put my mind is question, right? Why cloud open source did not win? I'm asking this question to the whole people who are watching. Why didn't cloud open source win? I'm saying the LLM open source will have a similar fate. That's my prediction, and I could be wrong. The VectorDB open source, the agent framework open source, all of that will win. But the LLM open source probably will have the same fate as the cloud open source movement. That's my prediction. I could be wrong. I hope to be proven wrong, but yeah.
No, again, Shiva, as I probably said at the beginning of this podcast, is that at least based on our experience of last 10 months implementing GenAI applications across the board now, open source is a good way to probably start start small, but I've honestly not seen it getting applicable in any of the scalable or production level workloads. So you probably might be right? But yeah, I mean, what really surprises me about this space is that every day things change, right? We probably, put bets that, okay, Anthropic is going down, and then they probably came back with something big, right? So I'm really looking for some more surprises before we can give a verdict. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You're bang on. We've not seen any production implementations yet.
So that is why, while LangChain has the more number of developers in their community, Cohere is cracking really on the revenue side. And Lizer is growing really fast because we maintain a balance between Cohere as an open source component and enterprise. We have both. But the only open source focused companies are fantastic for playing around, for trying things like you said. But when it comes to adoption, forget about enterprise, even for startups to adopt in a production use case, it isn't working out, unfortunately. Yeah. With that, we will continue to criticize or appreciate technologies as we move forward in the upcoming episodes.
With experience.
With experience, because we are deploying day in and day out a lot of things. Until next episode, take care. Bye from Rishabh and Siva here. Bye.
Bye everyone.